And we want to thank you all. Okay, now we're officially recording, so I'll start again. Hi, everyone. My name is Cecilia Begum, and I'm the Interim Executive Director at Texas Climate Jobs Project. We want to thank you so much for spending your time and energy with us today. Today, we're going to be talking about the launch of our latest research report called Building a Resilient Texas, Creating Efficient Buildings with Public Dollars. And the reason we publish research like this and do this advocacy work at Texas Climate Jobs is because our mission is to advance a pro-climate, pro-worker agenda. And, this report is really a roadmap for how Texas can retrofit our existing public buildings to both decrease carbon emissions and create high quality jobs for working Texans. We really want to ensure that the growing clean energy industry is an opportunity to reverse income inequality in the state and create safe, family sustaining jobs. So I'll talk us through our wonderful speakers today. So first, we're going to hear from Mr. Rick Levy, president of the Texas AFL-CIO. Next, we will hear from Sandra Bustillos, the building decarbonization coordinator at Texas Climate Jobs Project. And then we will hear from Ryan Pollock, the state political coordinator for the 7th District of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We will close out with a question and answer session. So you're welcome to submit questions via the Q&A button, which you should see at the bottom of your screen. I want to thank you again for being here, and I will pass it now to President Rick Levy.
Thank you, Cecilia. We're off to a great start. Thank you all at the Texas Climate Jobs Project for putting this on, for doing the work, and thanks to all of you who are attending to learn about that work. So, the Texas Climate Jobs Project has been in existence for a few years now, and what we aim for is that sweet spot where we can address the challenges of climate change, but we can also address key things in our economy, like making electricity more affordable, and also creating good, high-paying union jobs. And there are very few things in politics and in public policy today that you can truly classify as win-win. But I think what this document that you're learning about today is one of the most win-win situations that there could be. Decarbonizing buildings is energy efficient, it saves money, it creates high quality jobs, it improves health, and there's literally money available to do it. And what it really takes is leadership and a commitment to making it happen. So at the Texas AFL-CIO, we've experienced pretty much of a sea change in our organization. We are very focused on the energy jobs of the future. It's very important to us that the energy jobs that have powered this state for decades, if not centuries, are honored and respected, and the people that do that work, their lives are at the center of this transition. And that we also make sure that as we create new sources of energy and new programs to address energy usage, that folks in those trades and those jobs also have the benefits of a job that can sustain them, their family, and their community. So that's what we're going to learn about today. I appreciate, first of all, the men and women of the Texas AFL-CIO who have committed so strongly to making these programs a success, and also to all of you who are interested in learning about it today. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Cecilia.
Thank you so much, Rick. Next up, I am excited to introduce you to Sandra Bustillos, the Building Decarbonization Coordinator at Texas Climate Jobs Project and the lead author of this latest research report. Sandra, I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Cecilia, and thanks, Rick, for that introduction. I'm going to walk you through some highlights of our report, starting with the case for clean buildings. So why should we even care about clean buildings in the first place? Buildings account for 40% of carbon emissions worldwide, and the effects of those emissions, which we call climate change, can be seen around the world, and especially right here in working class communities in Texas. Climate change is a very real environmental, social, and economic threat, and Texas is already experiencing its effects in the form of intensified heat waves, natural disasters, economic distress, water scarcity, and infrastructure damage. On the images on the right, you will see a picture of Hurricane Beryl, which struck large portions of East Texas in 2024, and Winter Storm Uri, which struck most of Texas back in 2021. I'm sure most of y'all were either directly impacted or know of someone who was impacted by this severe weather events if you live in Texas. But yeah, working people faced the brunt of these consequences. Many people lost their homes. People were living with no electricity or water for months at a time. Many people couldn't drive to work and were severely financially affected. People suffered health effects, and there were even some deaths. Losses were huge in general for the state, but impacted working class families at a higher rate. Our community's health, financial stability, and access to resources are being threatened by the current rate of carbon emissions. And as the state with the most rapidly expanding clean energy economy in the country, as you can see on the chart on the left, Texas plays a pivotal role in shaping how the United States responds to climate change. And one of those solutions is building decarbonization. But what is building decarbonization? It is the process of reducing and or eliminating carbon emissions that are associated with buildings, their use, and their maintenance. This is mainly achieved through energy efficiency improvements, through retrofits, and also transitioning to clean energy sources. So some of the actions that can be taken to decarbonize a building include installing solar panels, updating HVAC systems, upgrading windows and doors, installing energy efficient lighting, and replacing old pipes, just to name a few. Like stated earlier, building decarbonization aims to cut carbon emissions, but offers benefits that extend beyond climate change mitigation. These include savings on utility costs, quality job creation, and health improvements. And I'm going to briefly highlight each of these. Cool. So when it comes to savings on utility costs, switching to renewable energy and also retrofitting existing buildings as a means to increase energy performance are two potential ways to save on utility costs and also reduce emissions. When it comes to building retrofits, retrofits can take the form of things like installing air economizers, glazing, installing high-performance windows, replacing old pipes, checking in on your HVAC systems, adding thermal and reflective paint coatings, just to name a few. These retrofits could potentially save public facilities millions of dollars every year. The EPA and the Rocky Mountain Institute have done their research and estimate that retrofits can decrease energy use by anywhere from 25% to 50%. So on the chart here, you will see total electricity costs for the year 2023 for 6 public entities across the state, along with the savings that could be seen if each entity were to reduce their energy use by 25%, 35%, and 50%. This is a general analysis and it doesn't account for any upfront costs such as labor, material, planning, or installation. But as you can see on the chart, Austin ISD, for example, could save close to $2.2 million every year if they decrease their energy consumption by 25%, or $4.6 million if they decrease their consumption by 50%. Another way to save on utility costs is through clean energy investments, and our research specifically focused on solar panel installations. To get an idea of how much money can be saved from solar energy investments in the state, we conducted savings analyses on 6 different entities across the state. One of these was Austin Independent School District. On the chart at the top, you will see the AISD's electricity use for the fiscal year 2022. And like we mentioned in the last chart, annually, Austin ISD consumes around $9.1 million worth of electricity. However, if they were to install solar panels across all of their facilities, the district could produce around 239 million kilowatt hours of electricity, more than what they actually need. This would actually generate $7.6 million in revenue for the district because all of the excess energy produced by the solar panels could then be sold back to the grid for revenue. And similarly, as you can see on the graph below, Aikens High School alone could potentially generate 1 million kilowatt hours of energy, more than what they actually need. And again, that's just excess energy that can be sold back to the grid for revenue. Building decarbonization in Texas also has the potential to create thousands of jobs. Retrofitting all public schools in Texas, for example, could create approximately 84,000 direct jobs over the course of 20 years. And the work required to decrease carbon emissions in buildings is also going to require highly skilled trade workers, such as the ones mentioned on this slide. By supporting and working closely with unions and labor organizations in Texas, we can ensure that these jobs are high quality, safe, family supporting union jobs. Supporting union jobs is the cornerstone for fostering good family sustaining jobs in the Texas clean energy sector. We know that union representations gives workers a sense of dignity and respect on the job, but research has also shown time and time again that workers covered by a union contract in the US enjoy better benefits, including but not limited to things like healthcare coverage. Bureau of Labor Statistics data from 2019 showed that 95% of union workers have employer-provided health insurance, as opposed to only 68% of non-union workers. Union workers also get higher wages. As you can see on the graph on the right, the bars in red are union wages for construction-related fields, and the bars in blue are non-union wages. So across the board in construction-related fields, union workers get paid significantly more. Unions also prioritize worker safety. A report published by the Illinois Economic Policy Institute found that union job sites are 19% less likely to have a workplace violation. And lastly, unions offer access to training. Trade unions use an earn while you learn model, which means that folks are actually getting paid for getting all of the training and certifications they need to become high-skilled workers. And this just provides them with an opportunity to actually advance in their careers and get the wages they deserve. It's also important to acknowledge that union labor is advantageous for contractors and employers as well, just because the work is completed on time and under budget. Projects are 40% less likely to experience skilled labor shortages when they're done by union workers. And hiring union labor also means gaining access to highly skilled workers, which can lower the overall cost of construction in the long run. Building decarbonization also has the potential to create healthier spaces that support the well-being of our communities by decreasing the exposure to particulate matter. So carbon emissions increase the concentration of particulate matter, also known as PM, in the atmosphere, and research has shown that high prolonged exposure to PM can lead to very detrimental health impacts, including things like coughing, eye irritation, headaches, and general respiratory illnesses. PM exposure can be particularly detrimental inside of buildings just because indoor levels of pollution tend to be 2 to 5 times higher and sometimes even 100 times higher than outdoor air pollution levels. And as people who spend up to 90% of our time indoors, these levels are especially concerning and should be addressed. But yeah, by decreasing the emissions that are emitted into the atmosphere and also retrofitting and upgrading our buildings, we can create comfortable spaces where individuals can learn, work, teach, and generally exist in without having to worry about health effects. Our research specifically focused on buildings in the public sector. Public buildings encompass those that are owned by the city, the state, or federal government. And we decided to focus specifically on public buildings because these are the spaces that are most frequently utilized by communities. I'm sure most of us have been inside of a public building at least once in our lifetime, whether that be a school, a library, city hall. But yeah, they provide crucial services for our communities and should be prioritized when we're thinking about climate resilience. And state and local governments that oversee these public facilities in Texas have the opportunity to spearhead the building decarb movement just because there are so many public buildings in Texas. The toolkit or the report also looks at different funding opportunities that are available for building decarbonization projects for public entities. We looked across federal, state, and local funding opportunities and found that one, the most substantial source of federal funding for building decarbonization comes from the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which are the country's largest investments in clean energy in history. Many of these programs are currently frozen, some of you may know, And we wanted to take this opportunity to emphasize their importance in the building decarbonization world and also highlight the need to protect these funds, which could generate thousands of good jobs here in Texas. The State Energy Conservation Office and the Clean Energy Fund of Texas are state-level organizations that serve as technical and financial partners for Texas-based investments in decarbonization work. These groups partner with local governments, schools, and public universities, and they also offer things like energy audit services and technical assistance for facilities that are looking to lower their utility costs. Encourage folks to check out their websites to find more information. Lastly, municipal bonds serve to build citywide clean energy infrastructure. Austin's climate bond, for example, is said to be on the ballot in 2026. And these bonds just serve as a perfect opportunity to advocate for some of the funds to be reserved for building decarbonization work specifically. And we also need to remember that advocating for labor standards in these bonds will help ensure the creation of high quality jobs. I wanted to highlight a specific funding opportunity that the Clean Energy Fund of Texas is currently offering before wrapping up. They recently received an $156 million grant by the EPA to help develop community solar and battery storage project at minority serving institutions in the South, including Texas. This is through the Solar for All program, which is a federally funded program. And eligible entities that can receive this award include historically Black colleges and universities, tribal colleges and universities, and Hispanic serving institutions. And the fund is going to begin accepting applications in the third quarter of 2025. So yeah, if you know of anyone who works at a minority serving institution who might be interested in learning more about this program or is looking to get solar panels installed on their campus, please have them visit the Clean Energy Fund of Texas website and complete an expression of interest form. We're going to also be linking that on the chat below. This form is not binding at all. You're not going to be legally bound to anything by signing up or filling anything out. It's kind of just to gauge people's interest and to get you connected to the right people. If you have any questions. Yeah. But yeah, those are just some general highlights of what the report covers. I encourage you all to read that. And if you want to learn more about anything that I just talked about, if you have any questions or need any information on anything that was discussed, please feel free to contact me. My email is up on the slide. But yeah, I think now I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Ryan Pollock. Ryan, if you don't mind introducing yourself and then talking a little bit about what you do and how it relates to building decarbonization and why it matters.
Thank you, Sandra. I wear a lot of hats for the IBEW, but one of them is statewide advocacy, government affairs, political coordination, and in that is my video on. Okay, sorry. Um, so as Sandra touched on, one of the big issues or hurdles that we have is just a lack of available trained workforce. That's across construction nationwide. In Texas, it's estimated we're going to have a shortage of 10,000 workers annually for at least the next decade. There's a lot of work to be done, so we need to be able to meet that demand, and that means good quality training programs that are able to attract workers, both to get into this industry and then make them valuable in this industry, and then also provide them with a good livelihood, which also aids in attracting those workers into there and encouraging them to stay in this industry where they're needed. Um, because at the end of the day, why are we transitioning away from fossil fuels? Why are we trying to be more efficient in our building processes and materials, if not to ensure that we're making a better future for everybody? And so if going green means, immiserating people and lower wages and higher poverty rates, and that's not really the goal that we're after, is it? So that's something that unions excel at, and that's ensuring that they have the best training so that they are valuable workers and that they can do any electrical work anywhere. We train them widely, as opposed to in the non-union sector, they tend to train them very narrowly so they can keep them as unskilled as they can get away with. And then maybe they give a few people who they want to take under their wing a little bit more training so that they can increase their supervision. But for us, not only are wages often, typically higher, but also we have better healthcare. We have better retirement. Our healthcare, for instance, right off the bat, if you have a family, you have, a spouse, children, we don't have any premiums for the individual worker. Nothing comes out of their paycheck for the healthcare premiums, and that also covers the entire family at no additional cost. And that's for a pretty decent healthcare plan. We also have a pension. We have a really good annuity. Nobody has a pension anymore. You can have a very good retirement. So these are all things that people look forward to, which are not standard in the construction industry. That I know they're standard in other industries. So again, this is another hurdle of like employers asking, why aren't more people getting into this industry? Why do we have such a shortage? How do we do this? And our answer has always been, well, we've seen it work for us. It's compensate people. It's treat them well, give them something to look forward to so they know that going into this new career and retraining their skill set, that's going to lead to more opportunities for them and they can build things that they're proud of, like fixing schools and retrofitting them and making sure they're more efficient so the school district can save money and then spend more money on good teacher salaries so that we can retain teachers. It all feeds into each other. So um, the other thing is being keeping those investments that we're making on these buildings, especially if we're using public buildings, then we're going to ensure that those are local because that's local contractors who are using a local workforce which is trained locally. That money's going to stay here instead of a fly-by-night contractor who comes through, cuts corners, doesn't take care of their workers, doesn't invest in their workers, and then the money they made off of that goes elsewhere. Those wages are sent back to other places. So if a city is investing, those tax dollars are recirculated into the local economy and helping to alleviate poverty by creating good jobs. And that, again, a positive feedback loop there. So ensuring fair pay, also safety. We've seen in this report and other reports that Climate Jobs has put out that safety is a big issue, and that's something that we also pride ourselves in because our workers are empowered to say, no, I'm not going to do that. That is unsafe. If they're being asked to do an unsafe thing, which they're also able to recognize because they're better trained in safety and looking out for situations. But they have that confidence to know that they don't have to accept dangerous conditions and they're empowered to also let other people know, which can also save projects. That safety instance like that are the things that doom projects. And also again with public investment on public projects, it's it's a lot to get people to convince folks to invest more money into things, especially if we have to raise bonds, like we do with so many projects around here these days. But we have to make sure that we can ensure the public that that money is going to be spent wisely. Those projects are going to be completed on time and on budget. And as Sandra pointed out, union projects are much more likely to be completed on time and on budget without interruption. And then those workers can go on to finish that project and then more investment in that area continues because those developers, those owners know that their projects will get built and they can rely on the local workforce. So again, this just builds more confidence and furthers more investment in green buildings, in retrofitting existing buildings. And so people feel confident that that money is going to be well spent.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan and Sandra, for all of those really great and rich remarks. So now we're going to open up for questions from the audience. At the bottom of your screen, you should have a Q&A option. So you can click on that and submit any questions. But I will start with this one. So for all of our panelists here, what steps can be taken to ensure that Texas does not fall behind in creating clean energy jobs?
I can start us off. I mentioned it a little bit during my portion of the presentation, but clean energy job growth doesn't have to depend on federal policy. There's a lot happening on the local level that you can get engaged in. I mentioned specifically municipal bonds. Those are great opportunities to go and advocate for some of those funds to be allocated for building decarbonization projects specifically. Um, I mean, bonds are going to happen regardless of federal policy, so it's just an excellent opportunity to get some of the money that's already going to come in to be specifically for those projects. And again, making sure that you are talking about including good labor standards in those contracts is very important as well, just to ensure that the jobs that are created from this money are good quality jobs, like Ryan was saying.
Yeah, even here we have Austin Energy, which is a publicly owned utility. So ensuring that advocating for better labor standards to ensure that those are good jobs and that they're also creating good green jobs. We have a lot of leverage as the public, which they are accountable to ensure that they're making investments and taking those initiatives and leading in that. And so that can really put that example and show the rest of the world that, hey, we can we can go green and we can do that sustainably. And not only that, we can do that while also creating good jobs and having high labor standards and having it work out for everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that, both of you. And I think the main thing to me is people need to be aware that this is possible. And like Sandra said, these are tools that are out there and available. So I think that part of it is just spreading the word about the fact that this exists and working with folks in local government to make sure it happens and make sure that when public money is spent, it reflects public values. And that is all the benefits that Sandra laid out in this report, as well as the really critical part that Ryan mentioned, which is, we can shape what the future economy and construction industry looks like. And, we have to just get after it.
Thank you all. That's great. If there's no other questions, I'm curious, Sandra, Ryan, or Rick, if you have any final words that you'd like to share before I close us out, either in response to each other's remarks or just on the topic in general.
Yeah, I think um, I don't know if I touched on it or not before, but one of the big issues is ensuring that as we transition towards these different ways of doing things, that the folks who are trained in doing the old way aren't left behind. And so that is also again going to not only alleviate poverty and give those people a better future and ensure that they have somewhere to go, but also um, there's resistance to these changes because people are scared. And if we can alleviate that fear and show that, like, no, this is a thing that you are going to enjoy. This is a thing that you can look forward to. Then that is going to help us do all this stuff much faster and meet the the goals that we've set for ourselves and make this all much more possible, much easier, and which with less resistance.
Yeah, I would just say, look, that the way things are is not the way things have to be. That people can get engaged, people can bring these tools together, people can work with folks in their local communities who want cleaner building. I think the part that Sandra said that was so striking to me is just what indoor air pollution looks like. And the fact that we're having people live in those situations and we have the tools to change it. Let's get after it. Let's create some jobs. Let's clean up our environment and let's go forward together.
Thank y'all so much. That's great. And we did receive one other question which is about whether or not folks will be receiving the recording and the PowerPoint slides. We can email those around to everyone who registered and who's here today. And we also have a YouTube account where we will be putting this recording so that you can use it at any time. And I'll
Yeah, I
just
think
close this. Oh, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, Cecilia, that Sandra and Ryan and I will be available to sign any of those copies if anybody wants like an autographed copy. We can make that happen. So just get with Cecilia, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I'll talk to the right people to make sure you get it.
I'm sure they're lining up.
That's right. And I'll just close out by saying that here at Texas Climate Jobs Project, we're really here to collaborate and partner, across, labor, policymakers, other nonprofit organizations, environmental groups. That's what we're here to do. And so please do not hesitate to reach out to us, because we would love to work with you all on advancing these programs, like we've talked about. And with that, I will, just encourage folks that are here to continue to, support job creation in the clean energy industry, creation of high quality jobs in the clean energy industry. And we really thank you for your time being here today. Thank you.